I always believed we had the kind of family people envied. My wife, Samira, was the heart of our home, warm, graceful, always putting others before herself. Our 18-year-old son, Ayan, was the kind of young man any parent would be proud of, disciplined, respectful, with a quiet strength that drew people in. We had built a life filled with shared traditions: Friday night dinners, morning walks in the park, late night talks on the porch. It was simple, it was steady, and it felt unbreakable. Ayan was in his final year of high school, already accepted into a prestigious university. His future looked bright, and I often caught Samira smiling at him with pride, her eyes glistening with the kind of joy only a mother could know. I thought I knew what those glances meant. I thought I understood the rhythm of our lives. But sometimes, what you don't see is what changes everything. It began with little things. Ayan started spending more time in his room, claiming he was studying or just tired. He would come down for dinner late, sometimes not at all, offering a quick "not hungry" before disappearing again. I chalked it up to stress, college applications, exams, the weight of impending adulthood. We all process pressure differently, I reasoned. Samira noticed too, of course, but when I brought it up, she dismissed it with a soft chuckle. "He's growing up, love. Let him be," she'd say, her tone light but final. I didn't push. After all, she knew him best. She was always the one he turned to for advice, for comfort, for understanding. Their bond had always been stronger, or at least more visible. One Saturday evening, I found Ayan sitting alone in the backyard, staring into the distance, a cold cup of tea untouched beside him. I joined him, expecting casual conversation, maybe even a rare father-son heart-to-heart. But he barely acknowledged me. His shoulders were tense, his jaw tight, and his eyes, once so full of life, were clouded with something I couldn't place. "Ayan, everything all right?" I asked gently, careful not to press too hard. He nodded, a quick, mechanical gesture. "Yeah, just tired." That was it. No explanation, no elaboration. He stood up moments later, excused himself, and disappeared into the house. I sat there for a long time, the silence pressing against my chest like a weight. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. But what could fracture a bond as strong as ours? What could shake my son so deeply? At that moment, I didn't have the answers. But I knew, whatever it was, it had already begun unraveling the life we thought was perfect. And I had no idea just how far that unraveling would go. The call came late in the evening, just as I was settling into the quiet hum of our living room. Ayan's best friend, Zion, was on the line, his voice tense, almost frantic. "Uncle, I think you should talk to Ayan. He's not himself. Something happened, and he won't tell me anything." My stomach clenched. I thanked him, trying to mask the worry that was already blooming in my chest. Moments later, I knocked on Ayan's door. No answer. I knocked again, firmer this time. "Ayan, open the door, son." After a pause, the door creaked open. He stood there, eyes bloodshot, shoulders hunched like he was carrying the weight of the world. Without a word, he turned back inside, sinking into the edge of his bed. I closed the door behind me and sat beside him, the air thick with silence. "Zion called," I began cautiously. "He's worried about you." "I am too." Ayan's lips tightened, his fingers clenched into fists on his lap. He didn't look at me, but I could see the storm raging behind his eyes. "Talk to me, Ayan. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it together." He inhaled sharply, as if preparing for something painful. "I didn't want to tell you," he murmured, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to hurt you." My heart pounded. "What are you talking about?" "I saw Mom," he said, the words cracking mid-sentence. "With someone else." My breath caught. What do you mean, with someone else? Ayan finally looked at me, and in that moment, I saw not just pain, but betrayal, confusion, and anger swirling together. She was with Uncle Faison. His voice trembled. I went to the cafe near the park to surprise her. She said she was meeting friends. But she was with him. They were close. Laughing, holding hands, then, they kissed. I stared at him, unable to speak. Faison, my childhood friend, someone I trusted, someone we welcomed into our home like family. The room spun, but I forced myself to stay present. For Ayan, I didn't know what to do, he continued, tears threatening but never falling. I felt sick. I couldn't confront her. I couldn't tell you. I just shut down. I reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder, grounding us both. My mind raced, emotions colliding, rage, disbelief, sorrow, but I kept my voice steady. I'm so sorry you had to carry that alone, I said. You shouldn't have. And I promise you, from this moment forward, you won't have to. Ayan nodded faintly, eyes fixed on the floor. The weight between us was heavy, but in that moment, something shifted, a bond forged not through comfort, but through shared pain. I didn't know what the next step would be, but I knew this: betrayal had found its way into our home, and nothing would ever be the same again.
It wasn't just the lipstick stain, or the late nights, or the turned-down embraces. It was the way Ethan flinched when I touched his phone. It was the way he began to shower the moment he walked in the door. Like he needed to rinse off the truth, that I told myself not to be paranoid. That marriage had its awkward phases, but intuition is louder than doubt, and mine had begun to scream. So I listened. One afternoon, while Ethan was supposedly at a team-building retreat, I opened our shared laptop. A simple, harmless gesture, until his email auto-filled from a recently used profile I didn't recognize. Curious, I clicked. And there it was. A reservation. For two. At a boutique hotel 2 towns over. Champagne on arrival. King Suite. It had been made the day before our anniversary. My fingers froze. For a long moment, I stared at the screen, my breath shallow, as though making any noise would cause reality to crash through the glass. I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't. Instead, I began keeping track. Dates. Receipts. Changes in his tone. I started cataloging the versions of Ethan I no longer recognized. The short-tempered one. The avoidant one. The one who smiled into texts and sighed when I entered the room. My therapist, whom I'd started seeing in secret, asked me a single piercing question. Do you feel loved or simply tolerated? It gutted me, because I knew the answer. Still, I needed clarity. Not just for myself, but for the woman who once stood in white silk, believing this man would protect her heart. So I followed him. A Friday evening. I told him I was visiting my sister across town. He kissed my cheek, distracted, already texting someone else. I parked 2 blocks from his office and waited. An hour later, he exited the building, not alone. A woman with long auburn hair clung to his arm, laughing softly as they walked together to his car. It wasn't just the way he looked at her. It was the way he never looked at me anymore. They didn't go to a restaurant. They didn't stop for coffee. They drove straight to the same boutique hotel. My heart broke. Not in a loud cinematic way, but in silence. A quiet disintegration of hope. I didn't chase them. I didn't make a scene. I just sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding me together. That night, I didn't sleep. But by morning, I had a plan. Because heartbreak might bruise you, but it also clarifies. And clarity, that's PowerPoint. 3 months into the marriage, I no longer recognized the woman staring back at me in the mirror. She looked tired, emotionally threadbare. Eyes dulled, lips pressed into a quiet line. The vibrant woman Ethan had promised to love forever had been replaced with someone who calculated every word, studied every glance, and waited for a truth she feared she already knew. The final confirmation didn't come with tears or screaming. It arrived oddly, in a moment of calm. I was organizing the linen closet when his second phone fell out of a jacket pocket, one I hadn't seen before. A burner, The kind no one uses unless they have something to hide. My hands trembled, but my instincts were clear. I unlocked it easily. He had used our anniversary as the code. There were messages. Dozens. From a name saved only as B. Flirty texts. Photos. Voice notes. Promises. One message stood out. Dated just a week earlier. I wish she wasn't in the picture. You and I could have had everything. And his reply. Soon. Be patient. I didn't cry. Instead, I sat on the floor for what felt like hours, phone in hand, silence all around me. No music. No TV. Just the sound of truth breathing heavily in my ears. When Ethan came home that night, he greeted me like always, peck on the cheek, casual question about dinner. I made lasagna. I even lit a candle. He didn't notice the tightness in my smile. He didn't realize he was eating his last dinner as the man I thought I married. I scheduled us a couple's massage tomorrow, I said sweetly, sipping my wine. Thought it might help you unwind. He raised a brow. That's random. Isn't marriage supposed to be full of surprises? He smiled, but something in his eyes flickered. Maybe guilt. Maybe confusion. I didn't care anymore. That night, as he slept, I forwarded everything. To myself, to a private drive, and to a lawyer I hadn't told him I'd hired. The paper trail was all there now. Proof of infidelity. Financial discrepancies. Emotional manipulation. It wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about reclaiming my power. I packed a single suitcase, wrote a letter, and slid my wedding ring into the envelope. In the morning. I was gone before he woke. No confrontation. No drama. Just silence. Like the kind he once gave me. But as I drove toward a future that didn't include his lies, I glanced at the mirror. And for the first time in months, I saw her again. That woman. The one who'd once loved too hard, questioned too little. She was back. And this time, she wasn't waiting to be chosen.